My name is JC Cortez. I'm the Director of Training and Development here at Synergia's Metropolitan Parent Center. I want to thank you for being here this morning. Quick message for our Spanish speakers. Give me 1 second. Si usted habla español y necesita de interpretación simultánea, estamos brindando este servicio el día de hoy. Usted puede elegir al fondo de su pantalla donde dice interpretación, el globito, y ahí usted va a escoger ahí, hacer clic ahí y luego seleccionar el volumen y cómo usted desea escuchar la presentación. Gracias por estar aquí de nuevo. Si llega a tener algún problema con la interpretación, por favor avise por medio de la charla para que así nosotros podemos dirigirnos a eso cuanto antes. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí y bienvenidos a Sinergia. Yes, so thank you everybody for being here, and it's so great to have you, Mark Sarabian. We are going to be talking about assistive technology and inclusion today and how it can empower our children and help in education and their education. So yes, before we get started, I want to let you know that we are broadcasting today's event live via Facebook Live. So hello again, Facebookers. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions or comments, Facebookers, please place them in the comment section. And for all of our attendees here via Zoom, please place your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Either way, we want to give you a warm welcome for all of you joining us and wherever you're at. Usually, I will upload this video on our social media, but yes. A few words about Synergia. Synergia is a multi-service agency based here in East Harlem, here in Manhattan. It's been supporting New Yorkers with disabilities and their families for more than 40 years. And we offer a rich source of information tailored for parents, including parents whose primary language is not English or who they themselves have special training needs. We help them participate more effectively in their child's education and development, and we partner with professionals, as we have today, and policymakers to improve outcomes for all children with disabilities. Synergia, which is Spanish for synergy, is one of New York City's 3 federally funded parent centers committed to serving people with disabilities and their families, with an added focus on communities of color and the economically disadvantaged. The other 2 are partners who we are always uplifting, include NYC, as well as our partners at Advocates for Children. And we support each other's work and everything that we do across the city. And we're happy to be a part of that collaboration. Lastly, Synergia creates programs ranging from transitional housing for homeless families who have children with disabilities to parenting classes for adults with developmental disabilities, and also parenting and education advocacy training for parents of children with disabilities. A few key housekeeping notes. We will be providing a recording only of this presentation. It will also be available on Facebook and our YouTube channel. In case you have to leave early, we understand. There is a survey that will automatically populate on your screens whenever you click off. We ask that you please complete that, and I'll give you a reminder, no worries, towards the end. But in case that pops up, that's what that is. But yes, please ask questions at any time, any case-specific questions. For the sake of privacy, we are on a public forum, so we ask that you reach out to us directly, and you'll have our contact information at the end of this presentation. But yes, please remember that this is a public forum. We are on Facebook, so if this is a private matter, please let's keep it private. Lastly, an important note, this is not legal advice and not supposed to be considered as legal advice. If you have any specific questions, please make the appropriate consultations. I want to thank Mark Sarabian for being with us today. Mark, thank you so much. We're so excited to have you present on this topic. Mark Sarabian is a leading advocate here in New York City, especially around technology and assistive technology. And I'm sure we are all going to learn so much from you today, Mark. So thank you for being here and making the time. I know many times we think of just technology as a computer or a tablet or, you know, like maybe an iPhone even, but we really look forward to you enlightening all of us on this very important topic and how it can support us in educating and supporting our children with disabilities and even our own lives. So thank you so much for being here. Please.
Gracias. Appreciate it.
Buenos días. Bienvenidos.
So I wanted to start off by just showing you that the tools that we use are in multiple languages. So I just wanted to reassure people, we don't get to look at many tools today. We just get to kind of talk about them. So I just wanted people to see this and get that impression that these tools are available to everyone. And this is an augmentative communication device that I'm projecting right now. So I just wanted you to see that. We're going to talk about it a little bit, but let me stop sharing that screen right now and get to my presentation. I'm really thrilled to be here. I've supported Synergia for years with everything that they do, and just how aggressive they are in helping people. It's really beautiful how they're just never yielding. So I'll try to speak as clearly as possible so that what I say can be translated effectively. But there are a lot of slides here that I want to get through, and you'll see why in a minute. My primary goal today is to try to help you think about assistive technology a little bit differently. In other words, we keep talking about the stuff of assistive tech, that it's a thing. Well, it is a thing, but it's more of a way of thinking. It's more of a way of realizing that technology has now changed the way we can help and look at learners. And the fact that it now proves that everyone and anyone can be a learner. Anyone can participate. So the tools are for enhancing participation. And to be able to think that way, you really have to reconsider how we looked at education in the past. So this slide right here is basically talking about, is it more important to teach a kid how to physically write something, or is it more important to help them express their ideas? Is it more important to teach a child how to read with the mechanical act of reading, or is it more important to help them learn how to comprehend the text and the content? And finally, is it more important to teach a child how to speak verbally using their mouth, or is it more important to teach them how to communicate? And those things are all very different. Ideally, we would like everybody to be able to do the mechanical side of things, writing, reading, speaking. But not everybody can. But everybody has a right to participate. Everybody has a right to show what they know. And that's kind of the essence of assistive tech. This is my nephew, grandnephew, that's how old I am. And this is him reading at 5 years of age.
Do you see him in the first strawberries?
No, I don't.
But look at those holes.
Oh, interesting.
Is the caterpillar.
Oh, wow.
He did it. We didn't see him, but he did.
Yes.
On Friday.
Now, this is his cousin. His cousin isn't having as positive of an experience of going to school and going to kindergarten. First day that he ended up in preschool, actually, he was asked to write his name, and he wasn't really able to do it. He wasn't able to make the letters the way the other kids did. He came home immediately, frustrated, and said he didn't want to go back. It's quite possibly that he has dysgraphia. I'm not sure yet. And that means it impacts the way he sees letters and writes letters. But the point is that he was already immediately frustrated with school, and he didn't have the words to express it. A lot of our kids notice their differences in learning immediately. They just don't always know how to share it with us. And very often that has negative outcomes, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. What did my niece do with her son? Well, she basically kept him engaged in other learning activities until hopefully his handwriting can catch up, or he can find other ways of writing and expressing himself. So keeping kids engaged, keeping kids in sustaining their desire to learn is our goal in education. It's not to teach them a bunch of mechanical skills. It's to keep them loving learning so that they can grow and learn forever. And so the goal of assistive tech is to keep the kid in the learning process. If they don't feel that they can participate in the typical way, then we find tools to help them participate in a different way. But the primary goal is to keep participating so that they can stay engaged and interested to learn. In order to do this, it's not about changing kids. It's not about fixing kids. It's about changing the classrooms. And classrooms need to grow and change. As we discovered in this pandemic year, we stepped up and we tried to teach kids at home. It was not perfect, but it shows that we can do more with technology than we thought we could. So as you go through these slides, realize that these tools are not to fix kids. Kids are who they are. The goal is to fix the way content is delivered to them and the way they're able to share what they know. Now, there are different divisions to technology that we use in schools. One of them is called instructional technology, and that's just the generic technology that we use, like smart boards, like Zoom that we're using right now. These are just tools to help a teacher deliver instruction. We have another form of technology that you may not have heard of. We call it universally designed learning tools. So these tools are tools that allow as many kids as possible to participate in a class. For example, a digital book. Every teacher is so proud of the library that they've built in their classroom. Look, I have books for everybody. Well, if you really had books for everybody, you would also have digital books and audio books and other books that might help other readers listen. You would have books in different languages possibly too, if you could. So then your classroom can serve as many students as possible. Because the goal is to get the kid to love reading, to enjoy reading, to discover what they can through text. And so the means of producing it, making it available for everybody more universally is the goal of this type of technology. Excuse me. The final area of technology that I'm talking about and what we're talking about today is assistive technology. The difference between universally designed technology, that technology is for everybody, trying to reach as many students as possible, is that assistive technology is for the individual. It's for that person, their particular needs. How do you create access to their education for them? So it goes beyond trying to serve everyone, it goes beyond that to try to serve that individual effectively. This is the federal definition of it, and we can provide you with materials so you can read about the law later. And it's very vague and it's very general because it was written many years ago, but it still applies to today. That assistive technology is anything whatsoever that can increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of a person with a disability. Now, there's a term we use called ableism, and in some sense, this law is rather ableist. It's assuming that we want to improve the person, when actually we're improving access for the person. So I want you to keep that in mind. That was written decades ago. There are many different types of assistive technology, and I'm going to fly through these slides really quickly. But as you can see, there are tools that help kids actually with their daily living needs, like machines that feed people, to an incline board, a board where it helps a kid write more legibly because it's upright, it's at an incline, to even raised paper that you can feel, and you can actually feel the lines so that as you're writing, it helps you stay within the lines. There are assistive technologies for environmental controls so that a person with a physical disability perhaps could operate their entire house. There are accessible modifications that we can make to any environment. If you look in the right-hand corner, this is a local high school in New York City where they've made a cut at the table for this child to roll up their wheelchair and participate at lunchtime with their peers. Our field even goes to orthotics. You see on the left an actual 3D printer. We're using a lot of 3D printing now to make a lot of things, to make an affordable hand for a child before they can afford a more expensive prosthetic device. We cover wheelchairs and seating and positioning, tools to help empower people to live the lives that they want to live. We have tools for hearing loss. This is an early hearing aid at the top and a cochlear implant at the bottom. We even use phones now as hearing aids. My wife has a hearing loss in one ear. She uses this device sometimes to have her phone listen in on a conversation with her friends so that she can participate more actively. We have supports for the blind, primarily Braille and text-to-speech, but we actually have tools now that a child could actually be in a classroom and a person who can't read Braille could actually see what they're typing. We have tools for low vision. In the old days, of course, it was a magnifier. Now we have tools like Orcam where a person could put on a pair of glasses and it would immediately tell them what they're looking at, be it text or money or even a person that they know. We have tools for augmentative communication. And that's what that first thing I showed you, the device where I typed in some words. We use this for children who may have problems with speech or the ability to express themselves effectively. You can see here an iWatch. So actually, we can actually put the communication device on a watch now. That's how small it's gotten. In the old days, in 1917, we actually made slates that you see on the left. This slate is a bunch of words and pictures for soldiers that came back from World War I who had lost their ability to speak. So we've been doing this for a long time. We have another area called computer accessibility. That's making all of these devices accessible to anyone, especially people with severe physical disabilities. On the left, you see an eye tracking system that allows a person who can't move anything except their eyes to control the computer as fully as you can with a mouse and keyboard. We have voice dictation on almost every device where you can talk to it. And we even have head tracking on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer, so the person could control a device with their head. And now our field is starting to branch out into new areas, such as virtual reality, augmented reality, and what we call embodied learning. On the left here, I'll just play a little teeny brief clip of it.
Keep going, blue circle. Get the blue circle. Yeah, blue circle. Oh, get out of the way, Yeah. How about blue circles? Enough.
You see a child interacting with a screen, trying to determine what they're trying to find their shapes while they're getting actual physical therapy and doing occupational therapy goals at the same time. We're calling that embodied learning. On the right, we have virtual reality, and this tool was made for kids with ASD or autism. And this allows them to be able to focus and attend to interactions, social interactions, public interactions, and so forth, and practice their skills in a virtual environment before they go out into a real environment. So this is where our field is going. It's really making some significant advances. And then finally, the last area of assistive tech that's really starting to grow are smart games, for the lack of a better term. Smart games are tools like this one for self-regulation of your own behavior. In this one, a child wears an armband. What this armband does is monitor her heart rate. And if she can practice her self-regulation techniques, her calming techniques, she can learn to focus, and then the game actually starts. The game will not start until her heart rate lowers and she's actually focused. So the level of sophistication and where our field is going is really incredible. So it's not just the simple tools I'm talking about today. It's keep aware of the fact that our field is ever changing. The one thing that never changes, though, is that assistive technology is empowering. It gives you access, and it gives you what we call agency, the ability to fight for yourself, to stand up for yourself, to speak for yourself. But the biggest problem in the assistive tech field is only if we adults recognize that they're valuable, because we're the gateway. We control kids' access to these tools. And my generation, some other generations have a problem with tech still, which is really sad. And it impacts how we deliver education to children. Case in point, my nephew Javier. My nephew has dyslexia, it was confirmed. And the school's answer to that was to actually keep him back twice, thinking that their remediation hadn't taken hold, so they would do it again and again. They were actually going to do it a third year until we stepped in and said, just please stop. We said, listen, technology could be beneficial to him. And they declined it. We gave them research. Research here, it says right here, this research says that if you have a device that reads to you, which we call text to speech, it actually improves your reading rate, your vocabulary, your comprehension. So we had the evidence, and we thought that would be enough, but they declined it. And they said, don't worry about it, Mark. We're going to read to him. He'll be fine that way. We don't want him dependent on the technology. I don't think they could see what they were saying. They're saying that the technology would make him dependent, yet he's already dependent upon them. Needless to say, and unfortunately, they failed. And a few years later, my nephew, so frustrated, was diagnosed as being clinically depressed. The outcome of not being able to participate, not being engaged, not being appreciated for what you're capable of doing and allowed to show what you know can really have a significant impact on a child's well-being. few years later, I flew down to Florida and tried to help him again and showed him this tool where it's a scanning pen where he can actually read with the pen. And he fell asleep on top of it. He used it so long. He was thrilled by it. He was amazed that he could finally do his work without leaning on an adult to do so. He's now in high school, holding his own and trying his best. But the problem is we run into a lot of pushback. And so I'm not saying this because I think those of you who are here, believe that this stuff might be useful, but you need to know how to speak to people who push back. This is a slide, and I can share the slides, but this is a slide of all the people that have pushed back on me before. People that have said that audiobooks will prevent a kid from learning to read, which is an absurdity, that they won't be able to use it on a state test. Well, some accommodations are available on a state test. It's just that we might have to modify them. But the fact of the matter is, if a kid uses assistive tech all year, you still increase their ability to learn, and therefore their skills on that state test have actually improved. We hear things like, oh, studies show that pen and paper, pencil and paper are better for note taking. Actually, I can disprove that if you've seen some of the digital notebooks and tools that we have. And so on. These are all the different criticisms we heard. The final one was, he won't learn how to talk. Well, first, the real goal is to teach someone how to communicate. If they learn to speak, that's not something we can predict, but communication can be had right now. We can help people communicate right at this minute. So I'm not saying get rid of remediation. I'm not saying get rid of therapy. By no means. We need them. What we're saying is that assistive technology is a tool that can be used simultaneously while someone is getting remedial services or therapeutic services. We don't wait till we hit a wall like with my nephew and then give it to him at the last minute. We give it to someone all along. Because as the kids love to say, I have homework tonight. Remediation is going to take time. You're not going to teach me how to read next week, or maybe not even this year. But today I would like to listen to that text. I would like to know what my peers are learning about. I would like to participate. That's the goal. One of my more controversial ideas is to bring this into preschool and to teach kids how to use all of these tools, just like pencils and paper, so that when and if they need it, they know how to use it. That's something we can talk about in a future presentation. The question is, who is entitled to it? Actually, everybody. Children with IEPs are guaranteed an opportunity for an assistive technology evaluation, according to the Chancellor's Continuum of almost 20 years ago. Federal law guarantees that everybody is to be considered for an assistive tech evaluation. Even kids with 504s and even kids that are just struggling could be considered by the schools themselves to get the help from more universally designed materials. Here are some of the kids that I've had the pleasure of meeting over the years that have used assistive tech for many different reasons. And I really just want to briefly go through some of the challenges that they face. Patara, at 27 years of age, still has a 5th grade decoding level. So one wonders how effective reading classes were for her. She had excellent tutors and excellent support, but not everybody develops the same skills with regards to reading. I wonder what tech could do for her. Abraham, still this is his handwriting at 13 years of age. At 13, he couldn't read his own handwriting. Taking notes was really quite difficult. He couldn't really spell effectively as well either. And his attention couldn't sit down in class, no matter what behavioral plan was put in place. It was really hard for him to focus. Justin has cerebral palsy and a physical disability. At this age, he still can't hold a pen or a paper. How do you expect him to do his work? Tom, at 22, still cannot speak verbally more than a few words. How is he supposed to participate if he can't communicate in a classroom? And Randy, who's now probably 27, was deemed intellectually and physically disabled and unable to just pay attention to anything. His learning specialist actually said that he was mentally capped. Those were the words she dared use. I don't understand how anybody can anticipate anybody's potential. That's what she said about him. So remediation was used for all of these kids to help them. And in some ways it was effective. But the question is, how can technology make remediation even more effective? How can it complement it? How can it support it? How can it help a child reveal what their potential is? This is a picture of Stephen Hawking, who was a famous scientist who passed away a few years ago. And you could see on his cheek a little teeny piece of metal. With that little piece of metal, that little sensor, he was able to run his entire computer just by telling his cheek to move. So that's the level of sophistication we have for these tools now. The question always comes down to, who do we consider assistive tech for? You know, and that's the thing. I think people have an idea that it's for this group or that group and not for this group. It's for anybody that finds education to be inaccessible for them. This young lady, Tara, cannot speak, cannot see, and cannot use her body physically that well because of her cerebral palsy. So the question is, would you give her assistive technology? There are so many kids in her situation where people look and they don't see potential because they don't know what's going on in her head. And that's the whole point here, is that who are we to judge what a child's potential is? Shouldn't we use all the tools at our disposal to somehow reveal what they could possibly do, or to create access for them so they can show what they can do? So the way we see kids, the way we see their potential really impacts whether or not they're going to get access to assistive tech. You see, because there are a lot of laws in place, and the Board of Ed has an entire path that you should follow to get an assistive tech eval, which I'll talk about. But somebody has to start it. Somebody has to say, this child may benefit. The law doesn't want us to do that. The law wants us to say, just let everybody have an opportunity for evaluation. Yeah, but you have to initiate the process. And I want everybody to initiate the process for their children. This father said that his child could spell. And I was doubtful. I didn't believe. I didn't presume that she had more capabilities than were observed. So what I did is I just made the parents happy, and I took what we call a switch and put it by her head. And I had a computer speak letters. And I said to her, spell your name. Her name is Tara. So that's what I did. And I sat back and I waited to see if she could spell her name.
The camera on this time. I want you to hit the switch for the first letter of your name. Okay? First letter of your name. Listen. First letter of your name. Nice job, Tara. That's the best. Oh, that's awesome.
So if you could hear the letters being spoken. And when the letter T came up, she picked the letter T. And you can hear me stumbling over my words because she just showed me that she knew what was going on. And I didn't believe. So we can all learn something.
Is the camera on?
And I did. And I realized that day that a medical diagnosis isn't going to tell me about her potential. And even differentiated instruction in the classroom, as valuable as it is, wasn't going to reveal this. And response to intervention, RTI, where we tried to figure out what resources might help a child, that might not be enough to reveal this. And then finally, universally designed classroom materials, they were insufficient. The only thing that was going to reveal this was assistive technology. And we had to try and we had to think about how we could reach her, how we could create a bridge. And that's exactly what assistive tech is. It's a bridge. It's a bridge to access. It's a bridge to reveal potential. The fact of the matter is, without these tools, so many kids would not be able to access curriculum, participate in curriculum, and show what they know and thereby learn. So it's creating access. And that's why it needs to be integrated. The question is, when do you start them? Who's capable? Who benefits? Well, the first thing that you need to know is that there are no cognitive requirements. This is my nephew at 2.
Fish.
I have a lot of nephews, by the way.
Goggles. Goggle.
And he was speech delayed
Hot dog.
and has a hearing impairment.
Ice. Ice. Juice. 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 Uh-oh.
And so we found that the tool actually helped foster his speech therapy. Now, if we took the pacifier out of his mouth, it probably would have been a smarter idea. And of course, if we didn't do this at midnight, that would be even a better idea. But the point is he was immediately engaged and he practiced his words and he practiced his speech. And so even after the speech therapist left, he had things to do. He had homework and it helped foster his growth. The second thing to remember about assistive tech is that technology is not going away. Our kids need essential skills. They need to be able to type. They need to be
Bradley
able to
does it
use
with his eyes
computers.
closed. Look at that, folks. Amazing. That's a good one. Okay, you do have to look at the board though at some point to know what letters supposed to be done.
This is Bradley. Bradley had a motor impairment and we were teaching him how to type and we taught him very young. The thing is, we said to him, if you could touch type, you don't have to look at, the keys. He thought that meant don't look at anything. So he closed his eyes. So that's a little, that wasn't very accurate, that description that we told him. But the thing is that these are skills that everyone needs. Every child needs to be able to electronically produce their work by high school. Teachers aren't accepting handwritten work. So all these tools should be pursued early on. Now, here's a young man who we were told couldn't use augmentative communication. He didn't have the cognitive abilities to do it. So we decided to do a little experiment at lunchtime. We put his favorite foods on there. We put the device in front of him and we wanted to see what he would do. Now, there's a far more sophisticated way of assessing a kid, but we just wanted to see how he would explore it. He took to it immediately.
Just a minute. I want you to see your microphone.
Okay, boy. Choose the one you have, though.
So you don't know who's capable. You need to explore the tools with everyone and you need to do it in a very effective way. I don't think you should just wing it like I did in this situation, but you get the point. And then finally, assistive technology is for fixing access to learning or life. It's not for fixing people. People are who they are and they should be celebrated for who they are. It's to fix access. And that's really important. Let me give you an idea of how we look at it. I think there are people in the crowd going, well, my child has ASD, my child has ADHD, my child has cerebral palsy. All of your children have different needs. All of your people you work with have different needs. But at the end of the day, they all share similar challenges, access to the curriculum. For example, a person who's blind, a person who's dyslexic, and a person who has a physical disability all have the same disability. They can't access your textbook. So the challenge is not their medical diagnoses. The challenge is the tools that they're supposed to learn with. And so the way we break it down is we break it down into 3 areas: input, processing, and output. That there are challenges in taking information in. And for these challenges, we find tools like text to speech, where a computer or a device can actually read text back to a person. And what we've noticed in the research is it actually improves reading comprehension and visual tracking and a whole bunch of other things. We have other input tools, tools where a child can actually take in information to understand how things are spelled, or to output, to produce their work, like word prediction, where they type and it gives them choices of the words that they want. They can listen to them, hear them, and then choose those words. So I'm trying to spell extraordinary, and all I know how to spell is XTR. And look at that, extraordinary pops up. So it gives me a multi-sensory way of learning. I see it now, I hear it. and I understand how it's spelled, and I can also use it as a sight word. I can remember it. So it has that feedback for me. We have tools for processing, tools to help you organize, help you to focus, help you to retain information. Some of those tools are things like schedule tools, like if then. You can organize a child's day over here where a child can check off all the things that they need to do and stay on top of their tasks. It could be as simple as their life skills at home. It could be the tasks that they have to do in school. We have other tools like FM units, frequency modulation units, units that allow a kid to listen above all of the ambient noise, the extra noise in a classroom. Optimal learning for a child is actually at about 60 decibels, but the average classroom is over 100 decibels. And for kids with auditory processing issues, that's really hard. We have tools that help kids organize their ideas. This is a little mind mapping tool on the left where a child can type in little cells. This child has a physical disability who's using this, and he can only type with one finger. And he was able to put all his information into these little cells for his science experiment. The problem is he now has to go turn it into an outline in a paper. And what this mapping tool does is it turns it into an outline with the click of a button. And on the right, you see his outline. One of the greatest challenges that all of our kids share in common is time. Their greatest disability is time, the time to complete things. And then finally, there are challenges in output, being able to express yourself, get your ideas out, write, etc. And we have tools for many different ways of expressing yourself, like I showed you in the beginning with tools for communication. We have different types of keyboards and tools that allow you to express your ideas depending on your physical or visual needs. And we have tools for children that can't type or can't write, and they could use their voice to speak. So you've played with voice dictation on your phone. Well, voice dictation is literally everywhere. I think my niece uses her phone to do all of her homework and just speaks it all. That's just her laziness, but actually it's effective, and I think she's a better writer because of it. I'll go back to the fact of the matter is that remediation takes time. And during that time, we lose our kids because they become frustrated, sad, they pull away, they see how other people learn with ease, and they stop wanting to learn. So we have to keep them engaged. Problem is, as someone who teaches teachers for a living, I can assure you we don't have enough time to teach teachers all the technology they need to know or how to use it effectively. And I really empathize with teachers. We're still teaching like it's a 20th century classroom. And we need to step it up, and we need to change things. Because the fact of the matter is, teachers don't want to use technology if it alters the way they teach. And that's really problematic. They're afraid that it might affect the way they teach. Now, that was before the pandemic. One wonders now, after this pandemic, how things may have changed for teachers. This is niece number 35 and nephew number 45, so many of them, sitting at home on our guest bed, doing their homework. I can see he's on his phone during the pandemic. So everybody now knows how technology can be used. And yay, we know how to turn it on. And yay, we know how to get on Zoom. But do we know how to really integrate it and implement it into education so that it's effective for not just the general population of kids, but all kids? And that's where we have to start to dig deeper into assistive technology and see what's out there. Now, this little QR code, if you're eating in New York now, you see that there are no more menus. Here are these QR codes. That QR code goes to a whole pile of resources that people can use. And I'll share it again at the end. You just take your phone and you aim it at that, and it will bring you to a bunch of files. But what I really want to explain to you is that we have assistive technology right now, all of us, on our phones, on our tablets, on our televisions, on our computers, on all the devices that are in schools. There are assistive technologies in there right now that we can use. And that's where you start. You start by looking at what you have. And so on my website, there's a link there that says assistive technology in your computer. AT in your computer. For example, Windows accessibility. If you use a Windows machine, you have text-to-speech built in where it talks to you. You have grammar supports that are amazing that help you organize your ideas and write effectively. You can control the entire computer with your voice. You have what's called immersive reader, which will take anything that's on your computer, websites or documents, etc., and read it back to you. We have the ability to magnify everything. So if a person has low vision needs low vision supports. We even have eye tracking built into Windows systems now. And one of the most interesting things that I found is that they're trying to branch out even in attention, because they realize a lot of people have attention issues who use technology and need to use technology because they're going to be all over Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and whatever else. So you have Focus Assist built into Windows machines now, where actually it helps you come up with your own schedule to prompt you and keep you on task. And then finally in Windows, Microsoft Office has so many built-in features, from a recording tool where you can record what's being said, perhaps in a lecture, to ways to annotate and to import videos and to keep all of your notes organized in tools like OneNote and have everything read back to you when you need to, and even voice dictation so that you can talk to it. So all this stuff is built into the tools you currently have. If you go to Android, there are so many tools. They have an accessibility suite that you can download that does a lot of the things that I just described. Matter of fact, there's a handout in that QR code of a whole bunch of Android apps for you to take a look at, many of them free or affordable. For Mac, same type of supports built in as Windows. I would say the voice dictation is a little inferior to the Windows version, but it's still pretty effective. And then finally, for iPads, which is probably the most common tool that parents have, there's a whole accessibility area now. Now, if you have an old iPad, you're going to find accessibility under the word general, as you see right here. On the newer iPads, accessibility is its own category, which is really excellent. Under accessibility, one of the things that I really recommend you go and play with is turning on the speech supports. And in those speech supports, I want you to turn on speak selection and speak screen, and it will allow a student to listen to anything that's on that iPad be read back to them. And then finally, look at other tools. Unless you know someone who's blind or has low vision, I would stay away from voiceover and magnification, because it can be pretty frustrating to get out of those tools if you're not familiar with them. But let's put it this way, a person who's blind can actually use an iPad or a phone independently. That's how sophisticated these tools are. Also built into the iPads now are accommodations for physically touching it if you touch it too hard or you touch it too soft. There are tools that allow you to do what we call scanning, which we'll talk about in a minute. And tools that I think you're going to love, especially, that keep your kid in an app and they can't get out. This tool is called Guided Access. It allows you to lock the child into that iPad app so that they cannot change the volume. They cannot go to another app. So many kids with ASD are so bright, they're just like, I'm out of here, and they go to another app. Well, a lot of parents of kids who have autism actually fought Apple on this for years, and they won. So now there's a feature built in called Guided Access, where you can lock your child into that device and they're not going anywhere else when you really want them to focus and pay attention to that application in particular. And then finally, there are alternative keyboards. Don't think that the keyboards on these devices are what they are. There are so many different types of keyboards for so many different types of purposes. One little girl that I worked with the other day has what we call dysgraphia. She has handwriting issues. We were able to find her a keyboard that was just filled with math characters so that she could type her math out easily. And then finally, Chromebooks have their own accessibility features built in. There are a lot of videos on their website that you can watch and see how to use these features. But the thing that you need to know the most about is that they actually have a Chrome store. They have a store where all of these apps are, and other apps for languages, apps for science, math, whatever. But that's where all these apps are stored. And you can get these apps. Some of them are free, some of them are subscription or cost money. And you can install them into your Chromebook but you can also install them into your Chrome browser on Windows or Macintosh. So that means that you can have these apps, these extensions wherever you are. And that's really valuable. That means if you're working in one place on, say, a Mac, you can now go to a Chromebook and keep working because your tools follow you. So this is when assistive tech really changed. When assistive tech finally became, it finally started following the user wherever they go. The fact that it's in the cloud means that wherever you are, it follows you. It's not stuck on one computer or one device. These extensions are pretty amazing. For example, one out there called Read and Write gives you a picture dictionary, gives you a translator, gives you text to speech so things can be read back to you in the Google Doc. It allows you to speak into the Google Doc. There are tools out there like Mercury Reader, which remove all of the advertisements and the distractions and things that might get a kid, off task. And you can see that it goes from the left to the right here. The website on the left is very busy, and it's all been extracted into just a simple thing to read on the right. There are tools like ATBar and HelperBird that allow you to have text to speech and allow you to give visual supports to learners. So many tools that are out there, and I'm just kind of touching upon them very lightly. And then finally, there are tools built into Google Docs themselves. For example, voice typing is built into the tool section of a Google Doc. So if a child wants to be able to talk to their device, into their document, they can, and this is free of charge. I've used it with 6-year-olds who aren't able to actually write or spell correctly or effectively yet. And they've been quite effective. And then what you do is you use another app to actually read back what they spoke. So it allows them to get their ideas out. The goal is to really get your ideas out, then learn how to edit those ideas. If you're going to be slowed down by typing or handwriting, that's really frustrating to kids who have so many ideas that they want to share. The quick solutions. Oh, there we go. And then finally, there are a lot of other apps that you can add on to Google Docs. Like this one is called Equatio. It's a math app where you can actually speak or type math right into a document. Let's jump over really quickly to augmentative communication, because I know that's on the minds of a lot of people. Augmentative communication, it has been used for so many different types of needs, for kids with autism, for kids with CP, kids with intellectual challenges, for anyone that has a challenge in expressing themselves. And what we need to really point out here is that there's a difference between speech, language, and communication. And our goal here is communication. Speech therapists focus in on speech, the actual articulation of words, the actual ability to verbally express things. They will work on that, and we need that. It's essential. And language, of course, is the context in which, we're actually communicating with each other, but it's the communication part that we're worried about, that a person needs to be able to have a voice, needs to be able to express themselves, needs to be able to tell others what they feel, what they think, what they want. And it ideally is temporary, but not for all people, not for the young man we saw in the beginning, Tom. He's needed it his whole life. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are many people that communicate effectively that way. I teach at Bank Street College, and the head of our college many years ago had ALS. He lost the ability to speak, but he continued to lead the college with a communication device. So Stephen Hawking uses a communication device, used a communication device. So you can see it's the whole goal is for that person to be able to participate and express themselves. Now we call it augmentative and alternative communication because it's not just devices. It's about any way in which you can communicate and express yourself. Sign language is augmented communication. So you're augmenting a person's ability to communicate. So sign language is there. So if you accept sign language, this is no different. I see a lot of kids that use sign, use a communication device, and also use their utterances, try to use their words. They try to use everything. Look at me. There's no way I could communicate without my hands. I can't sit here still. We communicate in so many ways. So there are so many resources and tools out there. And this area of our field, I'm just going to pass over these devices right now. This area of our field is a very complicated one. We have somebody on our line here today, Lindsay Huntley, is a very talented person in the city that knows all about this. And these folks are real skilled practitioners. And we really need a good eval for tools like this. We don't wing this. This is vital. I don't understand how anybody can have an education without the ability to communicate. So really, for all children, communication is the most important thing you should ever be focusing on. These are some simple devices that we use just to participate in activities. These are not end devices here. These devices have limited capacity. So these little devices here for a child to perhaps talk about a game, to participate in an activity, to give a presentation to a class. What we need are more sophisticated devices that have content that goes deeper, multiple pages of communication. And that's what I was showing you in the beginning, the device that was in Spanish. Let's give you an idea of what it looks like for a little guy using a communication device.
1, 2, eat, snack.
You want to have a snack? What do you want to have for snack? Tell me what you want to eat. Oh, did it turn off? Let's turn it back on. What do you want to eat?
Eat, snack.
What do you want? Do you want cheese? Yeah, you show me cheese.
Cheese and crackers.
You want cheese and crackers? Do you want anything to drink? What do you want to drink?
Milk.
Milk. Can you say please? Please. Very good. Okay.
So did you see that sign language, utterances, and the device? We want it to be a very rich experience. We want that kid to believe that their voice matters. And that's really what's primary here. There are some myths out there that we need to dispel. And that was one of the questions that people had. Will this mean that we're giving up on natural speech? No, we're not giving up on natural speech. Matter of fact, there was a study of 30 kids with autism. 15 kids had just speech therapy and 15 kids had speech therapy and an augmentative communication device. The ones that had both actually ended up communicating earlier, verbally, and more words were spoken. So we're not promising that a child's going to speak more if they use a device. We're promising they're going to communicate more. But the end result is, if you really love being able to express yourself, that you're going to try every means possible and you're going to make a greater effort to be able to express yourself. I think I have construction upstairs, so you're going to hear some banging. I'm going to pass over all of these slides, but I want to just mention really quickly that behavior problems in kids very often have a communication core. If you're going to see a child having outbursts and frustration, usually it's tied to the fact that they're not able to express themselves well. It is a form of communication. So your behavioral teams at school and your communication teams have to work together because they're both intertwined directly. How did communication supports like augmentative communication support Tom? Well, it gave him a voice. It gave him a whole path. It gave him a career. Tom is now an acting student at SUNY Purchase. Tom uses his device to not just communicate with his peers and to learn and to interact in his world, but for his career, to be an actor. Quickly talk about AT for physical disabilities. The only thing you need to know is that anyone can control a computer. There's no physical challenge out there that we can't find a tool to support that person with. We have every means of access you can imagine. The problem is we have to make sure the materials are accessible for those kids. This is Justin demonstrating to you that his middle school teacher actually gave him a paperback book to read, even though he had electronic books. The person just wasn't even processing how difficult this is for Justin. He's demonstrating how hard this is. You expect me to read this book? And this is why Justin had reading challenges all the way up into 12 years of age. This is what happens when you give a kid
Perhaps it would be best
an electronic
if you
book.
shut this book right now and never read the rest of this horrifying story. You can imagine, if you wish, that an hour later, the good.
So you see his head leaning? That's an engaged child. That's a child that loves learning. And that was his first book, his first real book that he could enjoy and relish. We have tools for every form of access you can imagine when it comes to physical challenges. We have key guards to help guide your fingers into holes for a communication device or for a keyboard. We have alternative keyboards. We have alternative mice. We have touch screens for every type of device, and we've had them for 30 years. This is not a new thing. We have head tracking tools. We have eye tracking tools. We even have brain-computer interfaces that we're using with adults now with ALS, so the person can actually tell a mouse where to go. And finally, we have what we call switches, and that's what you saw Tara using early on. Switches are an indirect way of controlling computers. You can actually click on a switch with any part of your body and thereby control any device. There's a lot to explain there, a lot to unpack that we don't have time for, but just know that that's what we use. We use a lot of tools like this so that kids like this gentleman has CP. And if you notice, if you watch closely,
Tell me something.
using his leg to control the
Is there
computer.
something you want to tell me? Something you want to tell me?
It's very difficult for him to express himself, and physical access is very hard. But if you notice really closely, his left leg, he was able to lift it and control that black switch that's over his leg. So we have access for all people with physical disabilities. This little guy, I don't have time for to show you, but he can actually control the computer with his little teeny thumb and click it with the limited strength that he has. We even have switches now that can enhance gaming for kids so they can participate with their peers. What happened to Justin? Justin's the first person in the history of his family to get a degree, never mind his master's degree now at Lehman. He's a math teacher for the Department of Education. So go figure. Assistive technology for learning disabilities. This is our final category. This is my friend's kid who has dyslexia and was really frustrated because he couldn't enjoy books anymore unless somebody reads them to him. And she got him a learning ally so that he could listen to books. She sent me this picture because he said he didn't want to go to school that day because he was on page 40 of Harry Potter and he didn't want to leave. That's what we want. Well, we want him to go to school, but we don't want him to be disengaged. We want him to love learning. So you get the idea of all of this. And let's end with our last two folks, Patara and Abraham. And ideally, what we want to do for kids like them is give them as many resources early on to keep them engaged in text, in writing, in expressing themselves, in organizing their ideas. There are so many tools out there, from audiobooks and digital books to tools that allow you to take a picture of a book and have it read to you. There are tools out there for math. There are tools out there that can actually read text to you by a pen. This is a pen called the C pen, where you just run the pen over the text and it will read it to you. And tools that assess reading at levels that we didn't imagine before. Tools that allow us to understand a kid's auditory comprehension as well as their visual reading ability. And then finally, we have tools out there that allow kids to do word prediction, to listen to their textbooks, to take notes more effectively. And what could these tools do? Well, Patara, the young girl in this picture, who's now in her 30s, she said, you know, AT didn't provide an unfair advantage. It wasn't cheating. And it didn't make it fair. It didn't make it equal, but it allowed me to play. It allowed me to participate. It allowed me to show what I know. So it gives kids opportunities. Where's Patara now? Well, you might encounter her. She's a legal advocate for people with disabilities in the city of New York. She has a master's degree in special education policy and her law degree, which she achieved at the same time at the top of her class. And she still has a 4th grade decoding level. So I guess that's not as essential as you think it is. And Abraham, where's he?
You guys as teachers, huh?
Abraham is one of 5 Marshall Scholars in the year that he graduated from college. Only 5, went to the London School of Economics, still can't read his handwriting, still is a notorious speller, still has challenges with his ADHD, but is a very successful young man, especially for the fact that we started these tools with him when he was 5 years old. Listen to this last user of assistive tech to get an idea of what I'm talking about.
Before I started using co-writer and speech to text and stuff, I didn't know how good my writing was, and I had really good ideas, but I just had no idea that I had them until I saw them in word form. And before I started using the tools, writing was really difficult for me. It was probably one of my least favorite subjects. But once I started using the computer and stuff, then it started to get better and better. And now I really like it. And it's really cool to be using all that stuff that lets me like see stuff and be able to like improve using that. Because before, one reason that I felt like I was doing not so good was because I wasn't able to reflect on my mistakes because they were in my head and disappearing every 5 seconds. So I couldn't reflect on what I was doing. And I think that seeing how that was and reflecting on myself was how I'm doing a lot better this year than sometimes in like 2nd grade and 1st grade. But last year in 3rd grade was when I really started to be able to see stuff and reflect because I used the computer then. But this year I'm really using a lot of stuff that helps me even more. So I can use that. And I feel like every year I'm getting exactly what I need. And I feel like that's really good. And I feel like everyone should have that. And I think that my learning, I've been able to see how I'm actually doing and not just like, am I really doing that well during parent-teacher conferences?
That level of reflection, that level of insight, kids know so much more than we think they know. And we have to listen to them and listen to their experiences. At the end of the day, it comes down to consideration. You have to consider that a child has more untapped potential than we can reveal in our educational practices. And the law tells you have to do it. We have to consider all children for assistive technology. But assistive technology is not just stuff, it's also services. And so the child also has to receive the support they need to have the stuff that they need be assessed effectively, and that it's be implemented effectively, and that it be followed up to see if it's still working for them effectively. We need to be able to support kids throughout their educational careers. It's not a one-off. You don't just do it and it's over. So if you look on the Board of Ed website, you can actually find details of all the different types of services that are available. But I have to be very realistic with you. The reason I created the free clinic, the reason why there are other people in town that can help you as well, is we have a small team of people in the DOE that can help you. And it's not large. It's not a large group of people, a small group of skilled people. And there are 200,000 kids with disabilities in the city of New York. And it is so impossible for that small group to reach everyone that we have to do this as a team with community resources, with families. Everybody has to work together to support these kids. And most importantly, now the schools. Schools are taking on a bigger responsibility in making sure that kids get the assistive tech they need, and they have to take on that responsibility. I'm not going to get into this right now, but this is one of the tools that they use to assess a child's needs for assistive tech. It's called it's called SETS. And what it is you're looking at the environment that the child's in, you're looking at their needs in the classroom, the tasks that are challenging, you're looking at their sensory needs, their communication needs, their cognitive needs, and you're trying to get a good picture of what their interaction with their environment is like, so you can see where you can build bridges with these tools. If you want to learn more about these tools and a lot of these resources, what I'm providing, what I provide with to you right now, and see if I can get this handout and give it to you. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. I'm going to put this PDF in the, this PDF is, hopefully that's a small PDF. We'll find out in a minute. That PDF is a bunch of links and graphics that show you the DOE website and the tools that are available to you. This website, it's called a Padlet, which is a nice interactive form where you can look and see all the tools that the DOE is providing you. Gives you the family guide to assistive tech in multiple languages, so you can go and you can read about what your rights are and how to access assistive tech services. It gives you the tools for your schools so that they know how to get an evaluation started. It gives you resources on how to actually find tools that you need and how to maintain the tools that you have. There are other resources on that form that show you how to get training requests for your school or for your child. There are resources because I know there were questions about how do I get something fixed, or there was an app that wasn't downloaded, how to contact the DOE and how to get the support you need. And then finally, there were tools there for schools so that they can actually figure out what kind of tools can we implement right now, even before an assistive tech eval is done. Or if we're going to help with the assistive technology eval, what are the resources that we have available to us? So all of these tools have been provided by the assistive tech team in the DOE. And so that's a great place for you to get started. And if you're frustrated, if you're having a hard time navigating these things, Sanahia is there, I'm here. A lot of outside groups are here too to help. And finally, you need to know that these assistive tech tools can be used at home if it's determined that they're valuable at home. A communication device, obviously, but some tools, like for example, if a child has homework and they need these tools at home, then this device and these tools can go home with them. But you have a responsibility to care for them because we don't own them. They belong to the district. So if you move out of the city, they come back to the district. You move from district to district, that's a paperwork issue. But anyway, just remember that these tools are being given to us alone. Now, some folks had asked, well, if I want a communication device, do I have other alternatives outside of the DOE? Yes, you do. And we can talk about those privately. But there are agencies in town that will do evaluations for insurance or Medicaid and allow a child or a young adult or an adult to get a communication device because that is medically necessary. The key takeaways here is that are that children can independently participate in learning with these tools. And that's the most important thing, to give them that autonomy, to give them that strength, that these tools are a bridge to learning. These tools are built into almost every device we have, and that everybody should be considered for assistive technology if they're struggling, just so that they can get the support they need to keep moving and learning on their own. Go to our last little guy. This little guy needed everything. Randy had communication challenges, physical challenges, mobility challenges, attention challenges. And he even had the challenge of us adults describing him as mentally capped, giving him a definition of intellectually disabled based on an inaccessible IQ test. The fact of the matter is we don't know what we don't know. Our tests can only reveal so much. And if we could build a bridge to this child and help them communicate, help them participate, what could they show us? That's the question. By the end of elementary school, he was only doing 20% of what his peers were accomplishing. By the end of middle school, he was only doing 40% of what his peers were accomplishing. But the point was, he was doing 40%. He was learning, he was achieving more. And by high school, it all came together. He taught himself how to read more effectively with software. He learned how to type effectively with word prediction in his one hand. He was able to verbally communicate more effectively so that he could put his device to the side and not use it when he didn't need it. And now he's at Hunter College studying sociology. I don't know about his major. I wasn't too thrilled about it, but that's what he wants to study. And he's trying to figure out what his next career move is. And Randy likes to say one thing to me all the time. He wants to remind everybody of this, and let's just let him have that final word on it.
Just remember, if you can educate me, who can you educate?
Well spoken.
And that's a fact. 7,000 kids drop out in this country a day. And there's no need for that. Everybody can participate. Our kids with disabilities are the highest level of dropouts. And these tools could really circumvent that. So we're always here to help with AT Help, anything you need at any time. What I wanted to do now was to open up to questions and know that you have a lot of resources and a lot of help in the city.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was such an amazing presentation. I didn't even know half of that stuff even existed. So I'm going to have to watch this again later. To members of our audience, I've shared 2 files that Mark has shared with us today, the Assistive Technology and also New York City Assistive Technology resources. Those are in the chat. Do not worry. I will also share them in the follow-up email that I will send out within a day or 2 of this presentation. So in case you can't download it or you've lost it on your screen, don't worry. I will be sending it to ensure that you get a copy. Yes, let's see. We do have some questions, Mark, and yes. So one of them is from Miss Daly, and it says, how can I and the teacher get training on the apps?
Well, it really depends on the app itself, of course. The first thing to do is really, to be honest with you, is to go to the website that the app is made, originates from, because there's usually a YouTube video that is really informative. I can say get someone like myself or someone from the Board of Ed to train you, but to be honest with you, the people that invented it probably have the best resources. So start with the YouTube videos on their website first. After that, to really, the bigger part of training is how do you integrate it into the classroom? How do you integrate it into the lessons? And that's where it becomes more essential. How can the teacher, your child, yourself for homework, and maybe talk to either the school or the assistive tech team and say, you know, do you have ideas on how this can be implemented effectively? Because a lot of kids abandon their tools if they're not used effectively in the classroom. And communication tools, that really requires some good training for everybody, because don't forget, it's a different language, so to speak. It's this child has a form of language that you have to learn too. You have to be able to speak in the device and talk through it, or else they're not going to use it.
Thank you. And then we have a question here. Can you speak about the advances being made with assistive technology? For example, my son is an AAC user, and I've had trouble finding the voice of an African-American toddler. My question is really about cultural accessibility advances. And thank you for this incredible presentation.
That's an excellent question, by the way. And a colleague of mine, I actually had a debate about whether or not we could determine what an African-American individual's voice is, because I felt that it wasn't my place to make that decision whatsoever. And so friends of mine, well, not friends of mine, colleagues of mine who are African-American, they notified me and they said that they've come up with one for an adult, which is this beautiful voice. It's almost like, I think it's more realistic than the other voices we have. So these people have really worked on this in this group, a cappella group. And they have an adult female African-American voice. Now, the question is, do they have a kids? I don't know, but the weird thing about digital voices is you can tweak them. So sometimes we can take an adult voice. Yep, Tamira is the adult woman's voice, but you might be able to tweak it and make it a kid's voice. I don't know. We could play with it. I can help you. But that's the first one I've heard of so far. We're trying to get a lot of other voices with a lot of other accents for English or actual languages. Matter of fact, we have like a Indian English accent. We have Spanish English accent. How's that for interesting? So not just a Spanish voice, but an accent in English. It's interesting. So it's growing, but we need more people like you to advocate and say, hello, can we use this, please? Matter of fact, I'll ask the people that developed it if they've worked on that. I definitely will. Great question.
Yeah, no, and she was also sharing that her son is so savvy, he's figured out the guided access feeture.
Well, change the password. Change the password.
Yeah, she says she's constantly changing the password. Yes, let's see. Thank you for this information. My son just had his AAC eval, and I'm looking forward to myself and the staff being trained on the program chosen. These resources will really empower me to understand more. This was great and a very helpful presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for a great presentation from Lindsay. Yes, and thank you for this excellent presentation. Lindsay's saying acapella just launched a new voice on the AAC.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Camera.
I told you Lindsay knows this stuff. That's her thing. I'm the generalist. I got to know a little bit about everything. She has a specialty. She's excellent at this. So.
And Ms. Mullings says this presentation will be shared within our network. It's very powerful, and thank you. We do have a question here. from Miss Martin. How can educators working outside of schools, camps, cultural organizations, etc., best support those who use assistive technology, especially if they don't typically use them outside the classroom?
I guess it depends on the assistive tech. After school programs, I think it's a cultural shift that has to happen. Tom used his communication device to be on a show that celebrated a child that uses a communication device. And to see individuals out in the community using their communication devices, to see individuals using magnification or vision supports or having text to speech to have something read back to them, that normalcy of seeing those tools not only allows all of us to accept them, but also makes us realize that maybe we should try to fit that into our environment. I see a lot of after school programs looking at these tools as crutches. And I have to tell you, it depends on what you're working on. If you're trying to teach a child how to spell or decode or to read something, that's fine. But if you're trying to help that child understand the content and process it deeply, then they should be using their assistive tech. So you really have to discern when and where. But I would say attitudes are the worst, because I've done studies with young people in their 20s who are teachers who push back on me on assistive tech and say that it's a crutch and that this child will never be independent on their own. And then I'll point out that Patara, who uses her text to speech as a lawyer, because her reading skills are so weak, listens to her texts at 540 words per minute. That is probably twice what any of us could do. So she has talents now in her assistive tech that we never imagined. Tom can use word prediction, where you can find the word that you want. Most of us can only do 9 words at a time. Tom can do 25. So these kids develop these skill sets with these tools that are phenomenal. And so it's only because Patara has been using it since 5th grade. So we want them to be able to discover new skills that they may never have had before, if that makes sense. It's hard to answer your question because you have to think about what's the tool that's trying to be integrated, that helps.
She said that does help. This is super helpful. Ms. Espinosa is asking, I'm just wondering if you can provide suggestions to parents who may be new to assistive technology, and what are the initial steps they can take so that they don't become overwhelmed? Thank you for that question. That's a great question.
And that's actually why we created AT Help, because I think we're more like social workers of AT, trying to help people find the right connections. Because I don't do formal evaluations. I try to point people in the right direction. So you can always come by and we can help. But I think it's the simplest way to look at this is to pick one problem for your child, one problem they're facing. Mark, they can't read this, or they can't write that, or they can't pay attention to that, whatever that one problem is, and define it really well for them. And then imagine what a tool would be like that would help them. Just imagine it. Gee, I wonder if there's a tool that would read this book back to the child. And then you go look for the tool that fixes that one problem for them. Because if the child sees one problem fixed, then they're like, that means there are other solutions out there. They have hope. They believe that they can do more. And that's what's really key is, don't try to take it all on at once. If it's a communication challenge, well, you can use pictures and put them around the house to indicate things that the child might be interested in. Pictures all over the refrigerator, pictures in the bedroom, pictures in every room in the house, pictures on the dining room table so that the child knows what they can, ask for food at dinner time. So just solve one little problem and then try to build on it. And we can always give you research, but when you come to me, when you go to the Board of Ed for an eval, we're going to ask you, what's that problem? What's that specific challenge the child's facing? And if you can define it, then we know how to address it. They don't know your child. I don't know your child. You know your child. So that's the key. Start really simple and straightforward.
Thank you, Mark. And we have Ms. Chusid, who has a question. This was a terrific presentation. May I give your contact to families in a group I facilitate where just this week difficulties around note-taking came up? Children are frustrated and schools are not offering helpful suggestions because school just started, quote unquote.
Note-taking, yeah, sure, always. Please give out my information. Note-taking is always quite difficult. It's one of the greatest challenges for the DOE. There are tools out there for college level kids now that will record what's going on in the class while you're typing, and you can actually import the PowerPoint and the handouts all at once so that it's all enmeshed in one space, which is just mind-bogglingly wonderful, better than anybody transcribing for you or writing for you. The problem is that that stuff has to make it down to high school and down to middle school. And a lot of schools have trouble with kids recording what's going on because is it going to be misused? So we have to make sure that everybody's protected, not just that child's needs to take notes, but the child who's talking next to them about something personal while it's being recorded. So it's a touchy subject, but there are resources, there are tools, there are ways to take notes in class, and we can talk about that.
Mark, quick question. And now that you mentioned that, especially as a child is going into college, when we're thinking about transition, assistive technology under rights of IDEA and the IEP only follows you until you complete high school or age out.
Right.
When it comes to students with disabilities in college or university settings, or even in vocational settings, does the CCO have the ability of obtaining assistive technology like this?
So what's CCO?
Care, oh goodness, now I'm on the spot.
Not
It's
good with acronyms.
the administrator of services, coordinated care organization. Thank you, there it is.
Sure. If you're talking about self-direction, the assistive technology resources and assessments are available through there. To access VR, assistive technology and resources are available through there. And for colleges themselves, they all have disability, offices that support students. But the problem is that, number one, assistive technology should begin really early on, because the child has to be able to figure out how to integrate it into their actual strategies for learning. So that's the first part. Second part is it has to be documented on their IEP that they're receiving it. Because when they get to college or they get to take their SATs or whatever, they're going to want evidence that that child needs those accommodations. And then third, when they get to college or a workplace, they have to self-identify. No one's going to fight for them. They have to say, hey, I need these supports. So Patara, our young lady who went to college and became a lawyer, she went to law school and she said, listen, I need these accessibility accommodations. And I have to tell you, just because she asked for them, it doesn't mean they were in place. She had one law professor actually tell her that she couldn't use her computer in class. And because of that person breaking the law, a law professor, she missed out on her graduation. So it never really ends, unfortunately. We've had professionals in town lose their jobs because people couldn't accept the fact that they were relying on their assistive tech as though those weren't their ideas. So this never really ends for folks. I had a young man come to me who was severely dyslexic, did not learn how to read in school, and he wanted to be a car mechanic. Thanks to Access VR and some other resources, we were able to find him tools so that he could actually have the manuals read to him while he's at work and while he's in school learning how to become a mechanic. So these tools are still out there for adults, but there's still pushback culturally to let people get access to them or to use them. And what's sad is they're really affordable now. Most adults can get the support they need. And for all the adults out there who are serving their kids, especially if your kids have learning disabilities are actually just neurological differences, which means that they're probably inherited, which means that you probably have people in the family that also would benefit from assistive tech and always could. And it would be nice if that child knew who they were and if those people celebrated the use of these things. I had a gentleman who's a head of a Fortune 500 company come to me who just discovered in his 50s that his problem all along was that he's dyslexic and he didn't know it. And he taught me some of the tools that he's been using all these years. So kids grow up and kids still need access and the resources are there. It's just that we got to start early because adults don't like to use this stuff. It's not part of their world. So it has to be integrated in their lives all along,
Yeah. Diana from Include is with us today in the audience, and she says, hello, great presentation as usual. I may have missed part of this, but can you speak a little bit about assistive technology devices for English language learners and possible bilingual tools?
Yeah. Diana, I think we should do a whole presentation on that. It's going to take a lot more research and I'll have to tap a lot of friends that know this stuff better. But the fact of the matter is a lot of these tools, like for example, one of the tools we use called Snap and Read, actually allows a kid to read anything that's in front of them on a computer. It also translates. Google Translate and Google Apps, there are actually extensions out there that allow a kid not only to translate as we know, and not necessarily translate effectively, but good enough, but also to immerse a kid into a language. For example, if they're reading something in English and they don't know a word, they can click on it and it will invert into the language that they need to know and then go back again to that word again. So there are tools out there. Once again, it's a cultural thing, not a cultural thing. It's, well, what I mean by culture, it's an American cultural thing that perhaps that's a crutch. And that's really unfortunate because we have to get past that. Maybe the division for bilingual services in New York has to really start to see what tools could help students and teachers make materials more accessible for kids, so that, say, this child could listen to this book in another language or this article and then participate in English. Maybe the child's reading skills in English aren't up to par yet, but their way to verbally express, is. So, we have to really look. There are a lot of tools out there, and they're scattered. I'm going to have to collect more of them and make them available, but there are quite a few. And we were just talking, JC and Ray and I were talking at the beginning of this, Ray is a translator, is that these tools, and my apologies to Ray, I talk so fast, but there are tools out there now that are good enough that I think within the next couple of years, you're going to see headsets that we wear that immediately translate live speaking into another language. The algorithms exist. It's just that the tools need to be refined a bit more. I use Google Translate conversation tools in my sessions because very often people come to visit me who speak a different language and nobody told me. And so I had a person come and speak with me about her child, and she only knew Chinese. And we both laughed at the fact that the conversation tool in Google Translate was enough for us to understand each other and get the point across. We just kept laughing through the whole thing. Hopefully she was laughing because she understood me, but it was amazing. So these tools are not, they're in their infancy, but they're not as bad as we think. So yeah, we need to collect those tools, and I think we need to do a whole presentation on them. It would be great.
Yeah, Diana, I invite you to join us for our presentation with the Director of Bilingual Special Education for the Department of Education on December 2nd. And we can definitely
ask that question.
Yeah, right. Put him on the hot seat. But no, that'll be a great question, and certainly one that I'll be sure to ask. But yes, last question we have, Mark, and sorry for keeping everyone over time. We're going to run through this as fast as we can, but why does the evaluation take months? And this is from the time the speech therapist sends the request.
Yeah, and that's because the team is so overwhelmed. The UFT asked the assistive tech teams not to go into homes during the pandemic. That slowed down a lot of evals. There's a backlog of evals. So the assistive tech team had to make a decision to actually support people through the schools. The assistive tech team is a limited amount of people, and they need the schools to step up, and the schools have to use their therapists and their resources to work with the assistive tech teams to make sure that these evals can happen locally. And we have two of the people here on the feed, and they can speak to it as well. But it's a process that just takes time. I think the most important thing is you have to make sure it's done correctly. Make sure that when you're in the IEP or before the IEP, that in CSIS, it talks about, does child need assistive technology? Now, the problem with that is we advocates asked for that many years ago, but I don't think we knew what we were asking for. The question says, does child need assistive tech? That's not the right question. The question is, does a child need an assistive tech evaluation? So that's what you're striving for. A lot of people look at that question and go, well, I don't know. And they just say no or yes. No, the question is there for trying to recommend whether or not that child should be evaluated. And, everybody should consider it. That's what we keep talking about. Consider having them evaluated. So the consideration phase starts. You start the paperwork, go to those links from the Board of Ed that I shared. The consideration process starts. You fill in the paperwork. You have to make sure that paperwork, goes where it needs to go. And it takes a little bit of time because, like I said, thousands of other kids are being processed. And then after an eval is either done by the team or is done by the local team with the Center for Assistive Technology or the technology solutions teams help, you still have to wait for a device to be trialed, for a device to be sent from the bureaucracy of the Board of Ed itself, which they don't control. I mean, don't forget, we're buying a piece of tech and then we're sending it through the system and making sure it gets to you. So it's a huge bureaucracy. It takes a long time. And in the meantime, though, there are things we can do, especially for communication, that can help that child in the short run. And that's why, your local, your speech therapist in your school, people like myself or other people can help you while you're waiting in this process to get started. So I guess maybe that's what we need, more resources for people while they're waiting. But I empathize with you. It's, and getting a lawyer or getting an advocate to push it along doesn't necessarily make it any faster. As long as you feel that people are listening to you and they file the right paperwork, unless the team can tell me anything else, that's as fast as I think we can work right now. There's a lot to catch up on since this pandemic, especially.
I'm just curious, what is the time frame? Like, how long does it take to go from beginning, asking the evaluation and getting the technology? What would you say on average the time frame would be on how long that takes out?
Well, the eval is supposed to happen within 60 days of the submission. Now we have Americas here and Lindsay, perhaps they could type in any other advice that they might have, but it's supposed to take about 60 days for the eval to happen if everything's been filed correctly. After that, there's not only an assessment, but there's a trial of if something's recommended. It's going to be a couple of weeks trial of that tool to see if it's effective for the kid, and then after that, the team has to put in an order for it, and after it's finally received, it has to be set up, and people have to be trained. So this takes time, and this is why I really recommend, especially for a communication device, that this happens early on. That you go through EI, early intervention, which they're supposed to provide too, and you go through preschool services. You really start early. This is not something we start at 12. And let me just say something quickly to the parents of kids who have autism. I know a lot of you have said, we've tried this stuff over the years and it hasn't worked. I can't tell you how many 12-year-olds with autism come in to see me, and they have more than the capability of using these tools. But because nobody bought into them, nobody maintained them, nobody supported them, nobody really believed in using the device, these kids don't believe in it either. They're that smart. They realize that they can get all their needs met by just using their gestures, their mannerisms, whatever it is they need to do, their utterances, the limited words they have. And unfortunately, they're satisfied with where they are. They shouldn't be. And so you still pursue these tools for kids no matter what age. It just gets harder and harder because it's kind of like me trying to learn Spanish at my age. I should know it by now, but I don't because nobody uses Spanish with me.
Mm-hmm.
JC's going to teach me, but nobody uses Spanish with me. And that's why I don't speak it well. Mm-hmm. So that's what you need. You need to be able to speak augmentative communication well. And the only way that can happen is if everybody works with the kid to use it and make it valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense, but it takes time, guys. It really does.
We have a comment. Yes, it is so true. My autistic son experienced this gatekeeping and early intervention. I had to do my own research and fight. And Lindsay says, we are currently evaluating in person. We are working within the timeline to the best of our capabilities from when we received the referral from the school CSE or CPSE. So thank you, Lindsay, for that.
One last thing to support my friends in the DOE. As advocates, get out there and fight for this team to be bigger and have more resources and a bigger budget and support, because this stuff is important. We have 200,000 children with disabilities in the city of New York. That is a larger amount of people than 95% of the cities in the United States. So process that for a minute. And this small team needs greater support and needs a broader reach. So that's my plug, politicians.
Duly noted. Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you for everyone who's contributed to the chat. It's been great having all of you today, and such a great, productive conversation, a really substantive conversation about assistive technology here. There is a question, the CAT team email, is that the AAC team? It's the same. All right, great. All right, we have some thank yous from Facebook, Mark, and thank yous from the audience here on Zoom. I want to thank everybody for your time today. This recording will be available immediately on our Facebook page, and we'll soon upload it to our YouTube page as well. I will follow up with all of you with the 2 resources files that were shared in this presentation in the chat in case you missed them or want to share them later and misplace it on your computer. I've done that before. But yes, thank you so much. I also want to let you know that we will be hosting more webinars in the near future. One on strategies for managing challenging behavior for children with autism. That'll be on November 23rd. Also on the 30th of November, coping with the return to in-person learning. And then in December, as I mentioned, we will have a series with the Department of Education heads. December 2nd will be bilingual special education. Then we will have the ACES program on December 9th, and then the Nest and Horizon programs on December 16th. We will also be launching, and then the AIMS program as well, right before Christmas. We will also be launching the Apple Academy, which will be first launched in Spanish, which is a 6-module series on advocacy for advocacy training for parents. So that'll be something that starts, I believe, next week. But anyways, I'll include all of this in the email. And yes. Oh, Mark, I shared that, but
I was the wrong one. The one I shared before this is the right one, actually.
Oh, okay.
This is the right one. This one's all the resources actually from Lindsay Marcus. So.
Oh, perfect. All right. Great. All right. So if there are any other questions, we will go ahead and dismiss. And thank you so much, Mark, for your time.
Thanks,
Ray, thank you. I know we can't see you, but
Ray.
thank you so much. And I